Okay, let us take a look, close-up look, comparing the newest Nikon speedlight, the SB5000, with the SB910, the predecessor. First thing you might notice is the fact that this says "Made in China," and if I didn't cover it up with a sticker here, this would say "Made in Japan." There is one design flaw, and I mentioned that in a prior video, and that is the fact that there are 3 autofocus assist lamps on the SB900, 9, and 10, and there are only 2 on the SB5000, which means if you are going to use single point autofocus mode, low light, especially shallow aperture, you're going to have an issue because in single point mode you'll have to switch to group mode, autofocus, or auto for the SB5000 because it will be off. It will be beat too far to the left. If my center point of autofocus is here, the autofocus assist lamp illumination will be outside of the single point there, so that's a design flaw. They could actually fix that with a firmware update. Now let's take a look at the back. And by the way, for $50 more, Nikon really did kind of screw the pooch on the SB5000. First thing you'll notice is that the illumination on the back panel on the SB910 is awesome, and it sucks fanny on the SB5000. That's not good. Now, as is the case, the SB5000 is roughly about 15% smaller, but they are both the exact same bloody weight. Same weight. Same weight, same weight. Exactly the same weight. Guide number between the two is only a wee tiny hair higher on the SB5000. Now, full blast mode, the SB5000 has, and I've tested this repeatedly, different battery sets, 2 seconds faster at full blast on the SB5000. And it does have an internal fan in the head, but the issue is not the fan, the issue is not the heating in the xenon head of a speedlight, which is right here, is a xenon tube. The issue is the capacitors. Nikon advertises that you can sit there and blast away, like for weddings and photojournalism, blast and blast away, but you can't do that. You have to have an external battery pack, which plugs in right here. Very expensive. I happen to use those and own them. And no matter how fast the recycle time is on the SB5000, you can only draw the power from the AA batteries, including the best AA's that money can buy, the rechargeable nickel metal hydrides like the Eneloop, 2,650 milliamps, only so fast. So regardless of that, you're going to have an external pack. And with the external pack, the SB910, the SB5000, the recycle time on the SB5000 becomes what we call moot. Illumination. The LCD outside of the illumination sucks on the SB5000. The display sucks regardless of that illumination. They did switch around the menu buttons. Rather than a rotatable and center click dial on the SB910, you have the same thing on the SB5000 with the addition of a wheel clickable. The wheel is not clickable on the SB910, but it is on the SB5000 as well as the center click OK button. They did change up the menu settings, but that's not an issue. It is dumbed down. One thing people complain so much about the SB910 is it's complicated as a computer. I got no issues with it at all, very familiar with it, but other people whine and piss because you will have to spend a lot of time learning the SB910 because she is one complicated little girl. Other than that, that is a close look up at the SB910 versus the SB5000, and for $50 more, as I said in the prior review, the full review of the SB5000, the SB5000 is 80% a loser and 20% a winner. But where she's 20% a winner doesn't really matter for photojournalistic work or wedding photography, because you have to be using an external power pack to feed either one of these, because the best batteries in the world ain't gonna let you sit there and continuous high and go brrrr on any speedlight. Doesn't matter if it's Nikon or otherwise. So that is a misleading premise, and people have that caught in their brains like, well, this thing will just let you blast them. Doesn't matter. And the cooling fan up here is not an issue, because what blows on any speedlight, and Nikon makes the best speedlights. However, I can't agree that this is up to Nikon's current quality standards that they've had forever and ever on their Japanese-made speedlights. What blows is not the xenon tube, but the capacitor banks down here. This is the battery compartment, by the way. They have it staggered on the SB5000. You got 2 and 2 here, where you have 4 here, one on top of another, and you got them staggered here, as is traditional with older Nikon speedlights. But even though I said 15% smaller, exact same weight. So that's a close look up. I can't recommend the Nikon SB5000. Can't recommend it. If it were like $60 cheaper, see, Nikon is saving 30% at least in production costs. Made in China, made in Japan. Hey! Saving at least 30% in production costs in SB5000. Nikon should not be charging you more for something that they're saving a lot of money on. Inferior construction, and definitely an inferior display. I mean, there ain't no comparison. I mean, even a blind person can see the difference between this and this. Like, awesome! Sucks. Here's the other thing. People have a misnomer. It's like, well, this one's a radio unit. Radio receiver only. And it will only even if you have a Nikon D5 or the D500, which is not out yet, you're still going to have to buy the $180 WRR10 transmitters to hook on the front of your Nikon. Yeah. So that means that the latest Nikon cameras, DSLRs, are not compatible to send out a signal to this. And this is receiver only. This also does not transmit at all. If you have multiple ones of these speedlights, it doesn't talk to other speedlights via radio. And that sucks. The least Nikon could have done, for God's sakes, is had built-in Wi-Fi radio transmission to immediately, when you bought a Nikon D5 or D500, it would immediately communicate with us wirelessly TTL. But nope, that ain't the case. It's not the case at all. You gotta buy the WR. Oh, and by the way, if you buy a WRR10, you need to send it back to Nikon to get a firmware update to version 3.0. And that sucks too. So my idea is that $550 for this Japanese quality unit, hey, versus $50 more for the inferior Chinese unit, which, by the way, especially in sunlight, most of the time you're using speed lights for fill light. This display is a lot better. You can see the difference. Awesome. Sucks. Yeah, quality construction, you can feel it. It's also a design flaw, but that could actually be fixed with a firmware update so that both autofocus assist lamps would fire in single point mode, as opposed to this one, which has 3. 1, 2, 3, and here's just 2. Boom, boom. So you'd have to switch autofocus group mode or auto mode so that both of these fire. If you have in single point mode, your center point will not be in the position for this single point autofocus mode. Only the autofocus assist lamp on the left side here, or looking down on the right side, fires. And that means that autofocus assist will not work with a single point autofocus if you're centrally located. It's a bit of a design flaw. They can fix that in firmware, however, or you could just change it to group. So there's a look difference between the SB5000 and the SB910. I'm not keeping this because I have many reasons I've just done told you. And I've got more experience than anybody else with Nikon speedlights on YouTube by 1,000 miles. I mean, my God, I got every speedlight. So, yeah, people think, well, the SB5000 is radio enabled. It's like, well, no, it's not. It receives radio, but it's not even compatible out of the box on the Nikon D5 or Nikon D500, which is not out yet, but will be here in about a week or so. So it's like, well, it's radio enabled. Like, no, it's not. It kind of is, but it isn't. Oh, damn. Nikon. I love you, Nikon, but you's making me unhappy. Unhappy for sure. Everything I said is empirically valid. Whether you agree with me or not, well, you know, so what? I don't make a penny either way. My point here is to give you valid empirical information so you can make up your own bloody mind. Right? Okay, catch you later. Thanks for watching. Like this video, you can drop me a buck, or you can tell me to jump off a cliff, whatever makes you happy. Catch you later. Lux y Veritas.